I'm inside Neovim right now, and I have a regular Markdown file open. Notice that I have an H1 heading here, some 2, 3 headings. And let's say that I want to make this a heading 1 as well, so that it looks prettier. Gotta remove one of these? Wrong. Notice that by just doing this, I now have 4 errors or warnings in my document. You can see the amount here, and you can see the error here. I'm going to add this back to get rid of the error, and you will notice that the warnings disappeared. What if I have this heading below here? I'm just gonna fold it back. I'm gonna copy and paste the heading down below. Notice that I also get another warning here. No duplicate heading, multiple headings within the same content. And I have 2 warnings in the file. I'm just going to get rid of this heading that I created, and now the errors are gone. Now I'm gonna scroll down to this heading that I have here. Notice that this above is a level 2 heading. This is a level 3 heading. I'm gonna make this a level 4 heading just because I want to, and you will see some errors as well. Notice that I have 1 warning, and it says here heading increment. Heading levels should only increment by 1 level at a time. It expected an H3 heading, but it got an H4. I'm just gonna get rid of this, and the error will go away. Notice also that I can view and paste images in Neovim. I can paste them in different formats. If you want to know how I do that, I have a video. You'll be able to find that on the top right corner. But what are all these warnings about? And why are they important when working with Markdown files? Let me create an error again, and I'm gonna show you. I'm just gonna add this back here. We have 1 warning. I'm gonna press liter, which is space in my case. Then I'm gonna press X for diagnostics. And then I'm gonna press capital X to bring the diagnostics for this single buffer. Here we can have more space and we can read the entire error. Here's the warning number, the description, which is what we read a moment ago. And you notice here that it says markdownlint at the end. What is this markdownlint? If I come up here and open Mason, I'm just gonna type colon, Mason with a capital M. And if I scroll down a little bit, you will be able to see that markdownlint is included here. I'm gonna open this, markdownlint-cli2. I'm gonna wrap the lines, liter UW. And it says here that this is a fast, flexible, configuration-based command line interface for linting Markdown files with the Markdownlint library. Let me go to this website so we can learn a bit more. Just gonna press GX here, and I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. And here in the overview section, you can see that Markdownlint is a library for linting Markdown files. Let me open that Markdownlint link in a new tab so we can learn a little bit more. Let me switch to that tab, and here we can scroll down. And this is gonna help us understand a little bit better. Notice that the Markdown language has a lot of flexibility, and that is a benefit, but it's also a drawback because many styles are possible and formatting is inconsistent. I learned this from my own files. When I was using Obsidian, I didn't have a linter enabled, so my Markdown documents were a complete mess. It doesn't matter because there are no hard rules. So what this tool does is to provide you with a library of rules to enforce standards and consistency for Markdown files. So basically, I enable the linter in all of my Markdown documents so I can follow a standard on each one of them and everything is consistent. I just fix all the errors that come up on Markdown files, and I also do the same with the articles that I put up in my blog post. And I think this is really helpful if you write a lot of Markdown because all of your files are going to have a structure and you can always follow that. First, let me show you how I enable this. If we come here to the left, you will be able to see an article that I posted a few months ago, my Markdown setup 2024. It's a long video, around 40 minutes, in which I go over all of the Markdown tips and tricks that I used at that time. It's a pretty informational video. If you want to go and check it out, you'll be able to find it in the top right corner. And if we scroll down here a little bit, you're going to find this markdownlint-cli2 section with the old way that I used to manage this YAML file. I'm going to show you a new and easier way. But first, let's take a look at how to install it. I'm going to switch to Neovim again. How was this file installed here in Mason? Let me close out of here. I'm also going to close the pane below, later XX. I'm going to fix this again by just removing this. And now I'm going to bring the lazy extras command. You're going to see here under enabled languages that I have this Markdown enabled, and it includes a few plugins. One of them is Markdown Preview. We can also hear that it includes this mason.nvim plugin, which I'm going to show you right now what it is. I'm going to bring up the LazyVim website. It's the first link that shows up. You will be able to see that we have an extras section. Notice that we have a language section as well. Just going to open that real quick, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And here is the Markdown section. Let me bring it up real quick. This is the distribution that I use, LazyVim. Do you need to use this? No, of course not. You can install all the plugins by yourself. I'm just showing you which plugins it installs so you can have a better idea. Let me scroll down here a little bit. And here in the Mason section, you will be able to see that it installs 2 plugins, markdownlint-cli2 and Markdown Talk. So that's the way that I got this Markdownlint plugin installed. And once you install it, you will be able to see all the Markdown errors and warnings that were showing up for my file. At the beginning, you're going to have hundreds of errors on each file, but don't worry about it. I'm going to give you ideas and tips on how to fix all of those. Let me show you now how to configure configure this plugin. I'm gonna go to my .files latest directory. At the root of the repo, you're gonna see the name here. You're gonna find this markdownlint.yaml file. You can keep this file anywhere. I uploaded it to my .file so you can have it available. And I also reference this file in the configuration. I'm gonna show you how. And in this file, I disable some of the markdownlint warnings or some of the rules. As you can see here, for example, MD004. I disabled this because the table of contents was giving me warnings for using other symbols than just the dash. If I switch back to this file and I go to the top, you will be able to see here that under contents, table of contents, the plugin that I use for formatting my Markdown documents doesn't only use dashes. This is a dash, this is a star. If we scroll down here, this is a plus sign. So that's why I disabled this rule. Here I disabled a few other rules, for example this one, because I sometimes work with Confluence documents in which I need four-space indenting. So I was getting these errors, I disabled this. I disabled also hard tabs in code blocks. You can read more about each one of them here at the top. I also disabled this one below. I'm not sure if it's a bug or what, but at the very bottom of my Markdown documents, I get a warning that I have 2 blank lines when I only have 1. So I just disabled it. I also disabled this for line length because I do auto formatting. So this is really not necessary. I use Prettier to auto format my files, and each one of my lines are 80 characters long. But I was still getting a few warnings, so I just disabled it. This other one here as well for Confluence, HTML, so that I don't get warnings when I have HTML code in my Markdown files. Does this mean that you have to disable all these? No, because you're gonna defeat the purpose of having a linter. The only reason why I disable all these is because I have auto formatting enabled with Prettier, so the formatting in my files is consistent, but I was still getting a few warnings that really don't make a difference, so I just disable them. Or some of my plugins also auto format stuff, and I was getting warnings like in the table of contents, so I just disabled that as well. If we scroll to the top of the file, you will be able to see how I configure these rules. This is the old way of doing it. This is what I have in my Markdown guide. I used to manually copy the file to different directories, as you can see here, but I don't do that anymore because thanks to a YouTube comment, I was able to find this nvim-lint plugin, and in that plugin, I can reference this configuration file. Let me bring up that file. I have it open here. You can read the comment that I left here at the top. This allows you to globally set the markdownlint.yaml file instead of doing it on a per directory basis. If you add this file to each one of the directories, and that file is going to take precedence instead of this plugin. So let's say that for a specific file, you want to have different rules or a specific directory, you can still do that. This suggestion came from my YouTube video, just the Markdown workflow 2024 by this user. And I also left a link to the video here if you want to go and check it out. Here's the configuration. Not much, to be honest. Just specify the linters. Here is the linter, markdownlint-cli2. And you basically just set the config argument, which points to the markdownlint.yaml file. Notice that I have here the home variable, and you also have to leave this at the end. So if you install this plugin and reference this file, of course you need to copy the file or download the file from my .files. You will be able to ignore some of the rules as well. Let me go back to my blog post and I'm going to show you something else. Notice that if you need to change Markdown settings inside a specific file, add this heading as an example. I left an example here. If I have a file in which I configure Prettier to 100 characters instead of 80, I can add this rule at the top of the file, and that is going to disable that specific warning. But what if you want to disable all the linting in a file altogether? Let me switch back to the same document that we were working with. And here I'm going to make this an H1 heading. So we're going to see a lot of warnings. We can see 4 of them actually, but I'm going to paste this Markdown disable heading, and notice what happened. 2 of the errors disappeared. Let me unfold this heading. I have this here, but I still have 2 errors which are at the top of the file. Let me get rid of this, and I'm going to add it at the very top of the file. Here, I'm at the very top, and I'm just going to paste this, and you're going to see that the 4 warnings disappeared. So you can do it by sections. If you want to do it for only a specific line, you can do it in a section and then restore it again. Let me show you an example. I'm going to switch to my blog post, and there are some sections in which I need to disable the linter. For example, if I come in here, you're going to notice that I disabled markdownlint, and I also disabled prettier. But then after this message, I quickly restore markdownlint again, because I don't want to disable it for the entire document. If you want to learn more on how I use prettier to format my documents, or if you have any other questions, let me know down in the comments. I'll be releasing more Markdown related videos, so if you're interested, just make sure to subscribe. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.